My mother's text came in while I was tying cream ribbons around my wedding invitations. Brielle's wedding is the family priority now. We won't be coming to yours. No apology. No phone call. No, I wish we could be in two places at once. Just one sentence cold enough to make my hands stop moving. Before I could even answer, another message appeared. Please don't make this about you. 10 minutes later, she posted a picture of my sister's wedding shoes on Facebook with the caption, "Nothing matters more than showing up for your daughter." I stared at those words until the screen blurred. Then I typed a reply to my mother. Please, Mom. I only get one wedding too. My thumb hovered over send. Then I deleted it. Because 2 weeks later, while my parents were smiling for photos at my sister's country club wedding, they found out my ceremony was already happening 3 states away, inside the old red barn I had rebuilt with my own hands. And when the first photo hit the family group chat, showing my grandmother sitting in the front row at my wedding instead of hers, my sister's reception went so quiet the DJ stopped mid-sentence. But to understand why that silence mattered, you have to understand something. My family did not abandon me all at once. They practiced for years. My name is Nora Whitfield. I grew up in Maple Falls, Ohio, in the kind of house that looked loving from the sidewalk. White porch, American flag by the steps, Christmas lights every December, a mother who baked lemon bars for church fundraisers, a father who owned a small appliance repair shop downtown and fixed half the neighborhood's dryers for less than he should have charged. People liked my parents. They still do. That is the hard part about being hurt by people everyone else thinks are kind. From the outside, we looked like a good family. Inside our house, love had a seating chart. My younger sister, Brielle, sat at the head of it. Brielle was the baby. The pretty one. The delicate one. The creative one. The daughter, my mother said, had a bigger heart, which somehow always meant everyone else had to protect it. If Brielle cried, the whole house moved. If Brielle wanted something, it became a family mission. If Brielle failed, she was overwhelmed. If I failed, I should have planned better. I was the oldest. In my family, that meant I was expected to understand everything before anyone explained it. When I was 8, I won the school spelling bee. I came home holding a little plastic trophy with a gold sticker peeling off the side. I remember standing in the kitchen doorway waiting for my parents to look up. Dad smiled for 2 seconds. "Good job, kiddo." Mom said, "That's nice, sweetheart." Then Brielle ran in crying because the dance store was out of the sparkly shoes she wanted for her recital. My trophy sat on the kitchen counter until dinner. By morning, it was gone. Brielle's shoes became a 3-day emergency. When I was 12, I made the honor roll. Mom put my certificate on the fridge for 1 day. The next morning, Brielle's dance photo covered it. When I asked where my certificate went, Mom said I put it somewhere safe. Somewhere safe meant a drawer under takeout menus and expired coupons. But the thing I remember most happened when I was 16. I found a printed photo from a family barbecue. I remembered that day clearly because Mom had asked me to stand beside Brielle and hold the bowl of potato salad while she took the picture. In the photo album, Brielle stood smiling in the center. I was gone. Not blurry. Not hidden behind someone. Gone. Cut out from the edge like I had never been there. I asked Mom why. She barely looked up from folding towels. "Oh, honey, the photo looked better centered on Brielle." That sentence stayed with me. The photo looked better without me. That was my childhood in one line. At church, Mom bragged about Brielle's dance recitals. At family dinners, Dad asked Brielle about her dreams. At birthdays, Brielle somehow became the topic, even when the cake had my name on it. I was the girl clearing plates while everyone laughed in the living room. The girl reminding Dad to take his blood pressure medicine. The girl giving Brielle gas money she never paid back. The girl driving Grandma June to appointments because Mom was too busy with Brielle's schedule. Everyone called me reliable. Reliable sounds like praise until it becomes a place people leave their burdens. The only person who truly saw it was my grandmother June. Grandma June was my father's mother. She lived in a little blue house with wind chimes on the porch and quilts folded over every chair. She wore lipstick to the grocery store and had the kind of eyes that made lying feel pointless. At every holiday, she would pat the chair beside her. "Come sit with me, Nora," she'd say. "I like the people who don't need a parade to prove they matter." I never knew how to answer that, so I sat closer. My cousin Melanie saw it too. Melanie was loud, funny, and allergic to fake peace. She said the things everyone else swallowed. One year, Brielle missed my birthday dinner because she was emotionally exhausted after a fight with her boyfriend. My parents spent half the meal worrying about her. Melanie leaned over and whispered, your sister could sneeze during your funeral and somehow become the victim. I laughed so hard I almost choked on my water. Then I cried in my car later. That was how it worked. The pain always came later when no one was watching. I became a nurse because pain made sense to me. At the hospital, if someone hurt you, helped. If someone was scared, you stayed calm. If a family was falling apart in the waiting room, you brought water and found an extra chair. There were rules. Need was visible. Care had a shape. I understood that better than I understood being chosen. That was where I met Caleb Hart. He was a physical therapist with kind eyes, a crooked smile, and a way of listening that made people accidentally tell the truth. The first time he really saw me, I was sitting alone in the staff room after a 12-hour shift eating vending machine pretzels because I had forgotten dinner again. He leaned against the doorway and said, "You look like someone who takes care of everybody, and then apologizes for needing a chair." I froze. Most people asked if I was tired. Caleb saw the wound under it. I should have avoided him after that. Instead, I married him in my head before our third date. Caleb came from Michigan, from a family so loud and warm it made me suspicious at first. His mother hugged hard. His brothers teased each other but showed up with tools whenever someone moved. His aunt sent handwritten birthday cards. His father once called me kiddo, then immediately apologized because he didn't know if that felt too familiar. I did not know what to do with people who checked whether kindness fit before handing it to me. One night after dinner with his family, I got quiet in the car. Caleb reached over and squeezed my hand. "What's going on in there?" he asked. I looked out the window. I don't know how to act around people who notice when I leave the room. He did not laugh. He did not tell me I was being dramatic. He just said, "Then we'll practice being noticed." That was Caleb. Gentle but not weak. Patient but not passive. The first man who made me feel like love was not a performance review. When he proposed, it was at Willow Creek. Willow Creek was an old farm property outside a small town in northern Michigan. It had a tired white farmhouse, 6 acres of grass, a row of apple trees, and a red barn with peeling paint and doors that groaned like an old man standing up. Most people would have seen work. I saw rescue. Caleb and I had driven by it for months when visiting his parents. One evening, the sunset hit the barn doors and turned them the color of fire. I said, "That place looks like it's waiting for somebody." Caleb smiled. "Maybe it's waiting for you." I thought he was joking. A year later, we bought it. Not with family money, not with some secret fortune. With savings over time, shifts, a careful budget, and more stubbornness than common sense. The roof leaked. The porch sagged. The kitchen smelled like dust and old rain. The barn floor had soft spots. The upstairs bathroom made noises that sounded personal, but it was ours. We spent weekends scraping paint, pulling weeds, sanding tables, replacing boards, and watching repair videos that made everything look much easier than it was. Caleb's brothers came up to help. His mother brought soup. Neighbors stopped by with advice, tools, and opinions. An old man from the hardware store taught Caleb how to fix the barn doors. A woman down the road offered wildflowers for our wedding. Someone from Caleb's church loaned us folding chairs. Slowly, Willow Creek stopped looking abandoned. It started looking like a place with a heartbeat. I did tell my family about it once. At Sunday dinner, Mom had made pot roast. Dad was watching a football game with the volume too low to be useful. Brielle sat across from me, scrolling on her phone, her engagement ring tilted toward the light like she was checking whether anyone was looking. I showed Mom pictures of Willow Creek. She swiped through them quickly. "That's cute," she said. "Very rustic." Rustic in her voice meant poor. Dad squinted at the barn. "Looks like a headache." Brielle finally looked up and laughed. "Wait, you're actually getting married in that thing?" I felt Caleb's hand still beside mine. "Yes," I said. "We are." Brielle tilted her head. "So what do guests wear, boots?" Dad chuckled under his breath. Mom gave Brielle a fake warning look. "Brielle, don't be mean. Nora likes practical things." There it was. That soft little insult wrapped in motherly patience. Practical. Simple. Rustic. Every word meant the same thing. Less. Brielle smiled and took a sip of water. "I'm just saying my guests would be confused." I waited for someone to say, my wedding did not exist for Brielle's guests. No one did, so I changed the subject. Again. Brielle was already engaged to Grant Calloway, a real estate agent with perfect teeth and the emotional depth of a brochure rack. When Grant proposed, Mom posted 12 photos on Facebook. 12. Brielle crying. Brielle holding out the ring. Brielle kissing Grant. Brielle with Mom. Brielle with Dad. Brielle's hand around a champagne glass. The caption was a paragraph long. Our baby girl is stepping into her forever. We have prayed for this moment since the day she was born. No parents could be prouder. When Caleb proposed to me, I called Mom from the parking lot of a diner because I was too excited to wait. She said, "Oh, Nora, that's wonderful. Did I tell you Brielle found the perfect photographer?" That was how my engagement entered the family. As an interruption. Still, I tried. That is the part people do not always understand. When you are the overlooked child, you keep trying long after the evidence tells you to stop. Not because you are stupid, because hope is hardest to kill when it sounds like your mother. Caleb and I set our wedding date for October 14th. We chose it 8 months in advance. We told everyone. We sent save the dates. We planned a small ceremony under the apple trees and dinner in the barn. 60 people. Long wooden tables Caleb built himself. Wildflowers. Homemade pies. Cider. String lights. Not fancy. Real. I pictured my parents sitting in the front row. I pictured Dad walking me halfway down the aisle, even though a quiet part of me wondered if he had earned that place. I pictured Mom crying when she saw me in my dress. I pictured Brielle maybe for one day letting me be the center. That was my mistake. I kept picturing them as the family I wanted, not the family they had been. 3 weeks before the wedding, I sat at our kitchen table in Ohio tying cream ribbons around the invitations. Rain tapped against the window. Caleb was in the living room arguing with the wedding playlist. I had saved my parents' envelope for last. Dennis and Elaine Whitfield, Mom and Dad. I wrote their names slowly, carefully, like the invitation itself was an offering. Then my phone buzzed. "Mom, honey, we need to talk about October 14th. My stomach tightened. I knew. Before the next message even appeared, I knew. Brielle and Grant had to move their wedding. The country club had an opening that Saturday. It's the only date that works for Grant's family. Our date. The only date. Then came the sentence that split something open. Brielle's wedding is the family priority now. We won't be coming to yours. I did not move. The ribbon slipped from my hand. Then another message appeared. Please don't make this about you. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. 10 minutes later, Mom posted Brielle's wedding shoes on Facebook. White satin heels. Tiny pearl straps. A soft focus filter. The caption said, "Nothing matters more than showing up for your daughter." I laughed once. Not because it was funny, because my body did not know what else to do. I opened Mom's messages again. I typed, "Please, Mom. I only get one wedding too." My thumb hovered over send. For a second, I was 8 years old again, holding a spelling trophy. 12 years old, looking for my certificate. 16 years old, staring at a photo where my own mother had cut me out. Then I deleted the message. Caleb walked in a few minutes later and found me sitting completely still. "Nora." I handed him the phone. He read the messages. Then he opened Facebook. I watched his face change. Not loud anger. Worse, quiet anger. The kind that has already understood what happened. He set the phone down gently like it might explode. "She really posted that." I nodded. He sat beside me. "You don't have to protect them from what they just did." My voice came out thin. "They're not coming." "I know. They didn't even ask if I was okay." "I know. They told me not to make my wedding about me." Caleb closed his eyes for a second. When he opened them, his voice was steady. "Then we make it about you anyway." The next morning, Brielle called. I almost let it go to voicemail. But old habits are stubborn. "Nora," she said brightly, "before you get weird, I just want you to know this wasn't personal. I was in the hospital parking lot, still in scrubs, holding a coffee I had not tasted. You moved your wedding to my date." She sighed like I was a slow child. "Technically, the country club moved us. And Grant's family is huge. There are expectations. I have expectations too." There was a tiny laugh. That laugh told me everything. "Come on," she said. "You're doing the barn thing. Can't you just push it back? It's not like people are flying in for some black tie event. The barn thing is my wedding." "Oh my God, don't say it like that." Her voice sharpened. "I knew you'd act wounded." "I am wounded. Nora, you always do this." I almost laughed. "I always do what? Make everyone feel guilty for trying to keep peace." There it was again. Peace. In my family, peace meant Brielle got what she wanted, and I smiled while losing something. I said I'm not moving my wedding. The silence on her end felt like a curtain dropping. Then Brielle's voice came back colder. "Fine. But don't be embarrassing about it when people choose the wedding that actually matters. The wedding that actually matters." She said it so easily, as if she had simply read the family rule out loud. I hung up without answering. That night, Dad called. Dad hated emotional conversations. He treated feelings like car trouble something unpleasant that should be handled quickly and with the right tool. Nora, he said, your mother is crying. I stood at the sink washing the same mug for no reason. Why? You know why. No, Dad, say it. He sighed. This situation is putting everyone in a hard position. This situation, you and Brielle having weddings on the same day. I gripped the edge of the sink. We did not both have weddings on the same day. I had a wedding date. Brielle took it. He was quiet. Then he said Grant's family has connections. This is important for her future. And mine isn't. That's not what I said. It's what you meant. Another pause. Then came the sentence I had heard in different forms my entire life. You've always been the one who could handle things. There it was. The family prayer. The family excuse. The family knife. I said, Dad, are you coming to my wedding? He breathed out slowly. We can't be in two places at once. No, I said. But you already chose one. He did not deny it. He did not apologize. That hurt more than if he had yelled. Before he hung up, he added one more thing. I'm asking you as my oldest, don't make your mother carry guilt on Brielle's day. I stood there with the phone against my ear, stunned by how natural it sounded to him. My mother had just abandoned my wedding, and somehow I was still responsible for protecting her feelings. I said goodnight, Dad. Then I hung up. After that, I went outside and sat on the back steps. The yard was dark. The air smelled like wet leaves. For a long time, I let the pain move through me, not because I wanted to drown in it, because I was tired of swallowing it whole just to keep everyone else comfortable. I thought about the trophy, the certificate, the cropped photo, the empty seats at my nursing school graduation. Because Brielle had gone through a breakup and Mom said she needs us tonight, I thought about every time they had praised me for not needing what they refused to give. Then I stood up, went inside, opened my laptop, and made a new guest list. Not a revenge list, a truth list. The first name I wrote was Grandma June. The second was Melanie, then Caleb's parents, his brothers, my coworkers from the night shift, the respiratory therapist who remembered my coffee order, the charge nurse who covered my shift when Grandma had surgery, the neighbor at Willow Creek who brought us tomatoes every weekend, the old hardware store man who taught Caleb how to fix the barn doors, the retired couple who sold us the farm and said they hoped laughter would come back to it. One by one, the list filled with people who had shown up in ordinary ways. And I realized ordinary love had been saving me for years. I had just been too busy chasing dramatic love from the wrong people to notice. I did not post anything online. I did not send a long message to the family group chat. I did not ask relatives to choose. I sent simple handwritten notes. Caleb and I are getting married at Willow Creek on October 14th. We would be honored if you came not out of obligation, but because you want to stand with us. Grandma June called within an hour of receiving hers. Her voice sounded tight. Baby, she said, your father told me you might be moving the wedding. I'm not. Good. Just that. Good. My eyes burned. You're coming. I already bought a blue dress, she said. And if my knees behave, I intend to dance. I laughed and cried at the same time. Then she said quieter, I have watched you give up your place too many times, Nora. I will not sit in a country club and pretend I don't know where I belong. That sentence felt like a hand on my back. Melanie called next. I knew they'd pull something, she said. I told my husband, watch. Brielle will find a way to make Nora's wedding an inconvenience. Despite everything, I laughed. Then Melanie said, we're coming, all four of us. And I swear if you put me at a back table, I'll move my own chair to the front. You don't have to choose sides, I said, because some leftover part of me still felt guilty. Melanie's voice softened. Nora showing up for you is not choosing sides. It's choosing the truth. More replies came over the next week. An aunt from Kentucky. 2 family friends. A cousin I had not seen since Christmas. Nobody made a dramatic speech. Nobody attacked Brielle. They just quietly chose. And that quiet choosing healed something louder than revenge ever could. Meanwhile, Brielle's wedding became a public production. Mom posted photos of dress fittings, floral samples, champagne glasses, gold-rimmed plates. Our baby girl's dream day is almost here. Family means showing up for the moments that matter, counting down to the most beautiful day. I saw that last caption while standing inside our barn wearing paint-splattered jeans and holding a drill. Family means showing up for the moments that matter. I looked around. Caleb's brothers were hanging string lights from the beams. His mother was folding napkins. Melanie's kids were sweeping badly but enthusiastically. Grandma June was sitting in a lawn chair giving instructions like a retired general. A neighbor had dropped off jars of apple butter for the tables. The old hardware man had come by to check the barn doors one more time. No one was performing family. They were doing family, with sore backs, with dust on their shoes, with coffee and paper cups, with no Facebook caption required. The day before the wedding, I drove alone to Willow Creek before sunrise. The barn doors were open. The apple trees leaned in the gray morning light. For a moment, the whole place looked like it was holding its breath. I stood in the doorway and remembered what it had looked like when we bought it. Peeling, forgotten, unwanted, waiting. Maybe I loved that barn because some part of me understood what it meant to be structurally sound, but underestimated by everyone who passed by. Caleb found me there an hour later. He wrapped his arms around me from behind. "You okay?" I nodded, then shook my head, then nodded again. "I keep thinking they'll call." "Do you want them to?" I thought about it. "I want the parents I imagined to call." He kissed the side of my head. "I'm sorry those aren't the parents you got." That sentence hurt, but it also freed me. Because sometimes grief is not just realizing people failed you. It is admitting they may never become the version you needed. On the morning of both weddings, the sky over Michigan was clear and cold. In Ohio, Brielle woke up at the Fairmont Ridge Country Club bridal suite, surrounded by white roses, hairspray mimosas, and bridesmaids in matching robes. Mom posted a photo at 8:12 a.m. She stood behind Brielle with both hands on her shoulders, smiling like she had personally invented motherhood. The caption said, "Today we celebrate the daughter who taught us joy." I saw it from the farmhouse kitchen where my wedding dress hung from the doorframe and Grandma June was buttering toast. The daughter who taught us joy. For 1 second, the old pain rose in my throat. Grandma looked at my face, then at my phone. "Put it away," she said. "I'm fine." "No," she said. "You are getting married." Fine is too small a word for today. So I put the phone in a drawer. Outside Willow Creek came alive. Chairs were lined beneath the apple trees. Cream ribbons moved in the wind. The barn smelled like cedar cinnamon fresh bread and the faint sweetness of apples. The tables Caleb built stood in long rows under string lights. No assigned seating except for one small wooden sign near the entrance. "Sit where you feel loved." When I saw it, I stopped walking. "Who made that?" Caleb's mother raised her hand from across the room. "I hope that's okay." I could not speak, so I hugged her instead. At 2:30, I stood in the farmhouse bedroom while Melanie helped button my dress. It was not dramatic or glittering. Simple ivory satin, long sleeves, a small row of buttons down the back, the kind of dress Brielle would have called plain. But when I looked in the mirror, I did not see plain. I saw myself. Melanie stepped behind me and smiled softly. "You look like a woman who stopped asking permission." That almost broke me. Grandma June came in wearing her blue dress and orthopedic shoes. She held a small handkerchief and a sprig of apple leaves she had picked from the orchard. "For your bouquet," she said. "Something from the place that chose you back." My throat tightened. "Grandma!" She took my face in both hands. "Listen to me. Today is not about who failed to come. It is about who did." The music began outside. Not a violin quartet. Not a dramatic orchestra. Just Caleb's brother playing guitar beneath the trees. I walked down the aisle alone at first. Not because nobody would walk me. Because I needed to feel my own feet carry me into the life I had chosen. Halfway down, Grandma June stepped out from the front row. Everyone went still. She took my arm. "I'm not giving you away," she whispered. "I'm walking with you." That was the first time I cried. Not because I was sad. Because someone had finally understood the difference. At the end of the aisle, Caleb was crying openly. His brother whispered something to him, probably a joke, but Caleb did not look away from me. When I reached him, he took my hands and whispered, "There you are. There you are." Not finally. Not "you look beautiful." "There you are." Like he had been seeing me clearly all along. Our officiant was Caleb's mother, who had taken her online certification more seriously than most elected officials take office. She opened her little folder, looked at us, and said, "Marriage is not only two people choosing each other. It is two people building a place where love does not require anyone to disappear." A breeze moved through the apple trees. Somewhere behind me, Grandma June made a small sound like she was trying not to cry. Caleb's vows came first. He promised me coffee after night shift's honesty, when silence would be easier space when I needed to breathe, and a home where strength would never be used as an excuse to leave me unsupported. Then it was my turn. I had written vows on paper, but when the moment came, I left the paper folded. "Caleb," I said, "I used to think love was something I earned by being useful, quiet, and easy to place last. Then you loved me when I was tired, stubborn, inconvenient, and still learning how to be cared for. You taught me that peace can feel strange when you grew up calling neglect maturity. I promise to build a home with you where nobody has to beg for a chair, where silence is never mistaken for love, and where showing up is not a performance. It is a promise. By the end, Caleb was fully crying. So was I. So were half the guests. Grandma June whispered, "That's my girl." When Caleb's mother pronounced us husband and wife, the applause rose through the orchard like thunder. Not polished, not polite, alive. Back in Ohio, Brielle's ceremony had begun too. The aisle was lined with white roses. The country club ballroom glittered under chandeliers. The photographer captured every expensive detail: the monogrammed napkins, the champagne tower, the gold chairs, the flower arch. But there was one thing even good lighting could not fix: empty seats. Grandma June's seat, Melanie's family's seats, Aunt Patricia's seat, 2 old family friends. An entire section on my father's side had little printed name cards, and nobody sitting behind them. Mom noticed first. Dad kept checking his phone. Brielle asked, "Where's Grandma?" Mom said traffic. But Grandma June was not in traffic. She was in Michigan, sitting in the front row at my wedding with apple leaves in her lap. After Brielle's ceremony, the country club staff moved everyone into cocktail hour. Guests gathered around tall tables with white linens holding champagne flutes and pretending not to stare at the empty family seats. The photographer approached Mom and Dad with his camera hanging from his neck. Before the reception starts, he said, "Do you want to do the 3-generation photo with the bride and grandmother?" Mom's smile froze. Dad looked at the floor. Brielle turned sharply. "Where's Grandma?" No one answered fast enough. Grant's mother, Linda Calloway, was standing close enough to hear. She was elegant in a navy dress, the kind of woman who noticed everything and commented only when silence became too awkward. She looked from Mom to Dad, then to Brielle. "Elaine," she said carefully, "is June not coming?" Mom forced a laugh. She had a conflict. Linda's eyes narrowed slightly. With her granddaughter's wedding, the photographer lowered his camera. The bridesmaids stopped whispering. Brielle's face tightened. Mom opened her mouth, but no sound came out. That was the first crack. At Willow Creek, after the ceremony, we took photos in front of the barn. Not stiff photos, real ones. Caleb lifting his niece, Melanie laughing so hard she bent forward, Grandma June scolding Caleb for stepping on my dress, my co-workers holding coffee cups even in formal clothes. The barn doors opened behind us, warm lights spilling out. Our photographer, a friend from the hospital, asked if she could post one picture. I said yes. It was a photo of Caleb and me standing at the barn entrance, our guests visible behind us at the long tables. Above us, string lights crossed the beams. Beside the door, clear as day, was the wooden sign, "Sit where you feel loved." The caption read, "First wedding at Willow Creek Barn." Built with love. Filled by the people who showed up. No insult, no explanation, no mention of Brielle, just the truth. Within 20 minutes, the photo reached Brielle's wedding. It started with a bridesmaid, a gasp near the bar, a hand over a mouth. Then Grant's cousin leaned in to look. Then another bridesmaid. Then Linda Calloway. Then someone turned the phone toward my mother. There I was on the screen. Not sad, not alone, not standing in some backup ceremony people could pity. I was glowing in front of a barn full of warm light, surrounded by people my parents thought would automatically choose Brielle. Grandma June was visible near the head table, smiling with a glass of cider. Melanie's children were waving behind me. Aunt Patricia was laughing beside Caleb's mother. The sign was right there. "Sit where you feel loved." Brielle snatched the phone from her bridesmaid. Her face changed. "What is this?" No one answered, because answering would require saying the truth out loud. Mom leaned over Dad's shoulder and stared. Dad's face went pale. Grant whispered something to Brielle, but she jerked away from him. Across the room, guests began to murmur. I thought her sister canceled. "No, that looks like a full wedding. Is that their grandmother? Why is half the family there? Wait, they skipped her wedding." The DJ tried to announce cocktail hour with his cheerful voice, but even he sounded unsure. Then another photo appeared in the family group chat. This one was from inside the barn. Long tables, full seats, candles, pies. Grandma June standing with a glass raised for a toast. Someone had captured the exact moment she said, "Family is who shows up before anyone is watching." That photo spread even faster. Linda Calloway saw it. She looked at my mother, then at Brielle, then at the empty seats near the front. Her voice was not loud, but it carried just enough. "Elaine, Is that your mother-in-law at Nora's wedding? The country club did not go completely silent all at once. It happened in layers. First the bridesmaids, then the cousins, then the table behind them, then the older guests who had been pretending not to listen. Even the bartender looked down. Brielle's lips parted. Mom's smile collapsed. Dad stared at his water glass as if it contained instructions. Linda looked back at the phone. So Nora did get married today. Nobody answered. They did not need to. The empty chairs in front of them answered. The full tables on the phone answered. The grandmother in blue answered. The sign answered. Sit where you feel loved. At the head table, Brielle sat stiffly, her perfect dress spread around her like armor. For once in her life, the room's attention had moved somewhere she could not control. When the DJ announced the father-daughter dance, Dad stood up slowly. The music started. Brielle took his hand. But people were still whispering, still looking down at their phones, still comparing the country club full of flowers to the barn full of feeling. That was the part my family did not understand. My wedding did not embarrass them because it was bigger. It embarrassed them because it was honest. At Willow Creek, nobody talked about Brielle's wedding during dinner. That was one of the kindest things my guests did for me. We ate roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans from a neighbor's garden, rolls, apple butter, and pies in 5 flavors, because Caleb's aunt believed 3 pies is just fear wearing an apron. Caleb spilled cider on his tie. His brother gave a speech that started badly, got worse, and somehow ended beautifully. Melanie stood next. She tapped her glass with a fork. "I'll keep this short," she said, which made everyone laugh because Melanie had never kept anything short in her life. She looked at me. "Nora, I have watched you be the chair, the table, the meal, and the cleanup crew for people who still asked why you weren't more grateful. Today, I am so happy to see you sitting down and being served." The barn went quiet. Then the applause came. I looked down because if I looked at her too long, I would fall apart. Then Grandma June stood. No one asked her to. She just stood holding her cider in both hands. "I am old," she began, "so I am allowed to say things people avoid saying." A few people laughed. She smiled. "Family is not proved by matching sweaters or pretty captions. Family is proved in ordinary moments. Who calls? Who listens? Who remembers? Who comes when it would be easier not to?" Her voice trembled, but she kept going. "My granddaughter Nora has spent her whole life showing up. Today we showed up for her. And I hope she never again mistakes being overlooked for being unloved." No one moved. Then Caleb's mother started clapping. Then everyone stood. A standing ovation in a barn with cider glasses and pie crumbs and scuffed floors. It was not elegant. It was perfect. Later that night, after the cake was cut and the barn doors were opened to let in the cold October air, I checked my phone. 13 missed calls from Mom. 5 from Dad. 9 from Brielle. A text from Mom. "How could you let people think we abandoned you?" I read it twice. Then I laughed softly. Caleb looked over. "What?" I handed him the phone. He read it and shook his head. "What do you want to say?" For once, I did not overthink. I typed, "I didn't make people think anything. I let them see who came." I sent it. Mom replied within seconds. "You humiliated your sister on her wedding day." I looked around the barn. Grandma June was dancing slowly with Caleb's father. Melanie's kids were eating pie with their fingers. My coworkers were singing terribly near the dessert table. Caleb was beside me, steady and real. For the first time, my mother's anger did not feel like a command. It felt like noise from a room I had already left. I put the phone face down. "I'm done for tonight," I said. Caleb smiled. "Good." Then he pulled me onto the dance floor. We danced under string lights while the speaker skipped once and someone's toddler ran between us. My dress brushed the wooden floor. Caleb's hands were warm on my back. It was not flawless. It was ours. The next morning, I woke up in the farmhouse to sunlight on the quilt and Caleb sleeping beside me. For a few minutes, I forgot the whole world. Then I remembered the text, the photos, the calls, the silence at Brielle's reception. I slipped downstairs in a sweater and found Grandma June in the kitchen making coffee like she had owned the place since 1942. "Morning, married woman," she said. I smiled. "Morning." She poured me a cup. We sat at the small kitchen table while the farm slowly woke up outside. After a while, she said, "Your mother called me." I looked into my coffee. I figured. She cried. Guilt rose in me automatically. Grandma pointed at me. "Number." I blinked. "Know what? No picking that up," she said. "That guilt is not yours." I swallowed. She said I ruined Brielle's day. Grandma's eyes hardened. "No, They ruined their own comfort by assuming your silence was permanent. I stared at her. She softened. Nora, some families don't break your heart with one big betrayal. They train you to accept small ones until you can't tell the difference between love and being managed. My throat tightened. I kept thinking if I waited long enough they would notice. I know, she said. But people who benefit from your silence rarely celebrate your voice. That sentence stayed in the room long after she said it. Around noon, Mom called again. This time I answered. Not because she deserved it. Because I deserved to hear myself speak. Nora, she said. Mom. Her voice was tight and wounded. I hope you're happy with what happened yesterday. I looked through the window at the barn, where Caleb and his brothers were carrying chairs. I am happy, I said. That seems to be the problem. She inhaled sharply. That is cruel. No, I said. Cruel was telling me my wedding mattered less. Cruel was asking me not to make my own wedding about me. Cruel was expecting me to disappear quietly so Brielle could feel chosen. Silence. I had never spoken to her like that. Not screaming, not crying. Clear. She did not know what to do with clear. Finally, she said, You could have told us so many people were going. You mean you would have come if you knew others would. That's not what I said. It is what you meant. Another silence. Then she said smaller, Everyone was talking. There it was. Not I missed my daughter's wedding. Not I hurt you. Everyone was talking. Image. Embarrassment. Control. I said, Mom, you're not upset because you missed my wedding. You're upset because people noticed. She started crying then. Once that sound would have made me apologize. I would have softened. I would have said, It's okay. I would have protected her from the consequence of hearing the truth. This time I stayed quiet. Eventually she whispered, We do love you. I closed my eyes. Maybe they did. In their way. But love without respect had become too expensive. Maybe you do, I said. But you loved me like I was durable, not precious. I'm not living that way anymore. She cried harder. I don't know how to fix this. For the first time, she sounded less angry than lost. I looked at the barn, at the apple trees, at the place Caleb and I had rebuilt from rot and dust and hope. You can start by not asking me to pretend it didn't happen, I said. And don't call me only because people saw it. Call me when you understand why it hurt before anyone was watching. Then I hung up. My hands were shaking. Caleb came in a minute later. He saw my face and opened his arms. I stepped into them. For once I cried without feeling like I had failed. The weeks after the wedding were strange. Real life does not wrap itself up neatly like a movie. Brielle blocked me on social media, then unblocked me 3 days later, probably to check if I had posted more photos. Mom stopped posting about family for a while. Dad sent one message. I should have handled things differently. It was not enough, but it was the closest thing to accountability he had ever offered. I replied, Yes, you should have. Nothing more. Grandma June stayed at Willow Creek for 5 days. She sat on the porch wrapped in a blanket, drinking coffee and watching leaves fall. She looked more peaceful there than I had seen her in years. Before she left, she walked with me to the barn. The tables had been cleared. The flowers were drying in bunches from the rafters. The floor still had scuff marks from dancing. Grandma ran her hand over one of the wooden tables Caleb had built. You built something good here, she said. I think we did. No, she said softly. You did more than fix a barn. You stopped waiting outside a door that should have opened years ago. I looked down at the table. My hand rested on a scratch left from someone dragging a chair during the reception. It made me smile. After Grandma left, I kept one table exactly where it had been during the wedding. The head table. Not as a shrine, as a reminder. A month later, we hosted our first community dinner at Willow Creek. Nothing fancy. Soup, bread, cider, folding chairs when we ran out of real ones. A local teacher held her retirement dinner there. A young couple booked a spring wedding. A family asked to use the barn for a memorial because their father had loved old farms. Each event left something behind. A thank you note, a ribbon, a scratch on the floor, proof that the place was alive. One afternoon, I found an envelope in the mailbox with no return address. Inside was an old photo. I knew it immediately. Brielle's 10th birthday party. She stood in the center wearing a paper crown. I remembered that day because I had been holding the cake. In the version from our family album, I had been cropped out. But this photo was different, uncut. There I was at the edge holding the cake with both hands while everyone looked at Brielle. On the back in Grandma June's handwriting were the words, "You were always there." They just didn't frame it right. I sat on the porch steps and cried until Caleb came outside. He looked at the photo, then at me. We should frame it, he said gently. I shook my head. Number. I went inside and picked up one of our wedding photos, the one in front of the barn. Caleb and me in the doorway. Full tables behind us. Grandma June smiling. Melanie laughing. The sign visible near the entrance. Sit where you feel loved. This one, I said. So we framed it and hung it in the farmhouse entryway. Not as revenge. Not as proof. As a promise. The old cropped photo stayed in a drawer. The barn photo went by the front door. Because I did not need to prove they had left me out. I needed to remember that I had finally stopped waiting to be included. My family missed my wedding because they believed I would understand. They believed I would bend. They believed I would keep absorbing the hurt and calling it maturity. But at Willow Creek, under the apple trees, I learned something I wish I had known when I was a little girl, holding a forgotten trophy. Being easy to overlook is not the same as being easy to lose. Family is not who claims you in public after leaving you alone in private. Family is who shows up before anyone is watching. And dignity is not always loud. Sometimes dignity is a phone turned face down, a grandmother in blue shoes, a barn full of people eating pie, a table built by hands that actually cared, and a woman finally understanding that she does not have to fight for a chair in a room where she was never treated like a guest of honor. I do not hate my parents. I do not even hate Brielle. Hate would keep me standing outside their door waiting for them to open it. I hope they learn. I hope they grow. And maybe one day, if they understand that love is not the same as image, there may be a seat for them at my table. But it will not be at the head. It will not be reserved out of guilt. And it will never again require me to make myself smaller. Because I already built my table. And the right people found their seats. So tell me, if you were Nora, would you ever let your parents sit at that table again? Have you ever had to stop begging for a place in your own family? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Because sometimes the strongest revenge is not destroying the people who abandoned you,